Good evening, Seth again. I'm about to turn 100 subscribers, so thank you so much to everyone who's come along for the ride. I'm sure there's some family and friends in there, hey guys, but everyone else who managed to snag in, thank you so much for joining me. I have decided to make a video this evening because my fingers hurt. They hurt because I've been trying and struggling to get a group on this bow. Yeah, and that's sort of how I tell myself that they're able to shoot. Nice stiff aluminium arrow. I don't know what the spine weight is on these. Bought on eBay, second hand. The only ones there that were my length, my draw length, about 32 inches. I'm around 29 to 30 inches. So yeah, if I take the bow and I can do a nice tight group regularly with those arrows, it's close enough done to in my opinion, because that means you've removed enough in the middle that it can fire a stiff arrow, and if you want to fire wooden bendy arrows you can put material back in again, but we'll talk about that later. Because what was I doing? Yeah, I was struggling to get a group, which means this bow was not forgiving. There was something not quite right compared to the other ones I've made, which allow it to shoot the arrow consistently and well, and that's, I guess, why, you know, my fingers hurting stopped play, because when you're trying to figure out what could be wrong, be it, you know, something wrong with the arrow or something up with the bow not being quite shaped right, you have to be firing it consistently. That's the other thing. If you haven't got good technique consistently, you're going to create issues that you could mistake for something wrong with the bow. So yeah, my sore fingers were stopping me from shooting properly. So yeah, it was disguising anything that I was looking for in the bow. But what I think I landed on was the grip here. You know, sort of in. No, we're not going to talk about that yet. This video. What was I going to call this video? Why me? Why Sweet Chariot? Why? Why would you want to buy one of these bows? It was all about me trying to explain, or try and at least demonstrate that I know what it is I'm talking about. These are sort of highly strung things. So yeah, that's, you know, the channel's for demonstrating them, showing that they actually work, which is pretty good proof, really. But if I could talk a bit more about the process, it might sort of shed some light. You know, it will create some trust in me as a bow builder, because I am trying to sell these things at the end of the day. I'd love them to make their way around the world and get used by people. But of course, they've got to work right if you're doing that. And well, yeah, and you know, I doubt these are going to be someone's first bow. They're not cheap. You know, the wood is hard to come by, as I'll explain in a moment. But and it also takes a lot of time. I mean, you can go through a lot of staves to end up with one bow. So yeah, they're not the cheapest, probably not the first bow, but if someone was an experienced archer, was considering buying one of these, you're sort of going to want to know that I've done the thinking that needs to be done and sort of put the work in to make it a consistent and reliable machine, a tool, and then as well as a thing of beauty. You know, something a bit of a mantra has become, you know, functional first, pretty second. Nothing wrong with pretty, but you can't turn a blind eye to the function. So yeah, let me go through the process quick and talk about it, and yeah, hopefully demonstrate I know what I'm talking about. So I didn't want to start with the handle, I wanted to start with the stave, or I guess more accurately it would be the log which the stave comes from. Let me see if I can fetch one of those quick. Hello Molly, take yourself up there. Let's just grab the mini one, that'll be easier to talk about. And this is a leftover lump of yew. So this obviously would have been part of a bigger log, but you can see here it's covered in knots and gnarly stuff, and that is not what you want on a bow making log. So this would have been part of a log, probably the other half of it had no imperfections on the other side, and this one's been split off and discarded, but I use this one as a demonstration. So when you're making a self bow, I've explained this briefly before, it's hard to see the sapwood on these, but it's been outside. You've got a sapwood on the outside and then a heartwood on the inside, which behave slightly differently. So when you're selecting your bow piece, yeah, well, firstly, These U parts, the ones I come by, have either fallen down on their own, been blown over, or have been cut down by arbors and left in the forest. So they're not easy to come by. Even if you can find the wood, you've then got to find a piece of that wood which has the characteristics that you're after. So well, you can make them out of thinner branches. It's a talent, and they look beautiful. In fact, the first bow I made was made like that, but it's a very simple affair. But yes, with these ones, you're looking for at least 60 inches, something like that. 60 inches of nice straight stave where you haven't got any imperfections like this on the front of it. You can work around it if you're good enough, if you're familiar enough with the wood and know how to cut away from the knots and not violate the structure of the wood. You can do it, and they make beautiful bows. With something like this, you're going to struggle to make the wood bend and not crack with so much imperfection going on in there. So yeah, first you go find your log, get out of the forest, and you're splitting it like this. And that's another stage where you could completely ruin the thing. If you send the split in the wrong way, or you pick up too larger drying crack or something like that, it's not going to be a viable piece. You can have a lovely long piece, then just one small imperfection, and it just ruins it. And the splitting process where you start is where you could do that. You could put your axe in the wrong place and send a split right down the middle of your useful piece of wood. So yeah, you split your log very carefully, identifying where you want to keep. You use various axes and wedges and things like that to do that. Send the split down, then you chase it down the log. Then you might want to do it again, take your stave away, and you'll end up with a nice raw long piece of wood that you can fingers crossed turn into something good. Split that guy down a sec. I'll stab myself with my arrows. So yeah, you found yourself a decent enough piece of wood. So I had a nice long stave in there, which would be good for demonstrating this. So that's your first couple stages, and once you got it into a nice lump of wood, then you've got to start taking material away, obviously, and you do that through a process of tillering, and that's the first stage you want to do, because if you go ahead and put all the work into your handle before you do your tillering, you could snap your limbs and have a handle that is more or less useless. You've wasted your time. So first things first, you make a nice stave. Scrape, 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 scrape. Lots of scraping in this process. You start with a big blade, work your way down to smaller blades, and then down to sandpaper. And while you're doing that, you've got to make sure this one's bending the same as this one. And you're taking the correct amount of sapwood away to heartwood and sort of size it down while being considerate of the structure of the thing. And you'll be putting it on the floor and bending the limb and seeing how it feels, and you take feedback through your hand there, and gently and slowly but surely you can match up these two limbs. Now once you've done that, what would I go for next? I'd probably mount the handle next. That's because you're trying to eliminate the bend in the middle of the thing. So along comes the handle, and decide on a nice lump of wood to go in there. And all you really want to do at that point is face these two up to each other, one stuck to the other. So then you've got a good idea of where your hand's going to rest, and sort of where you need to get the strain to bend the limbs to for brace height. You might have seen people doing this before. So this is where you start dialing it in together. Making it sound simple, once you've got the block attached to the back of the stave, then you can sort of start turning your attention to the tips. And this is where the similarities between archery and mountain biking became sort of apparent to me. I went into my mountain biking and the mechanical side of it as well. And a bike like a bow is large, very beautiful, sophisticated, or not, large, beautiful, simple parts connected by very boring, intricate, important parts. And I guess this is sort of one of those. We can make them pretty. I went for mahogany and white oak on the ends of these, but yeah, function first before prettiness. The tip overlay here, the other ones I've done have been in antler. Is really good material for that. Nice and light, so you don't slow down the tip of the bow, which is really important for getting the string to go quick, and therefore the arrow to go quick. But yeah, it stops the string from cutting into the wood. So yeah, some nice hard oak do the same job. And obviously it houses the string. This is where you know, it's just a stick until you attach a string to it, and if your string doesn't stay and is reliable, you're in for a whole mess of trouble. So yeah, in come the knocks. Very tiny, intricate, boring component, but without it, nothing works. So we go ahead and do that, and this is where you decide how long the thing is, and obviously you need to go find a stave which is some sort of length. You could make a very short bow, but it's not going to draw very far, which is no good for the design I've made, or the design I'm making, I guess. Which wants to draw far. You're firing a nice lightweight target arrow, and you want it to go nice and fast, so they got to draw far. So you know, the first one I made was 57 inches knock to knock, which is how how you measure the length of a bow. It's not, you know, tip to tip. It's where the string goes. You know, whatever's over the tips, it doesn't matter. That's not counted in the length. So this is a 60-inch bow. The first one I did was 57, and that was pushing it. The handle was starting to bend in the middle and things, but it's still a great bow. I'd love to get. I'll do a video on Stoker. It's with my brother at the minute. But this one, well, at that point I realised probably wants to be a little bit longer. What did I learn from Stoker? Yeah, the important thing to learn from Stoker: your string needs to be 3 inches shorter than knock to knock. Yes, yeah, it's an important piece of information to take away. People have done this for a long time, and they know this. It's well, bows are roughly the same. I mean, if you try, you know, there are minute differences that make up a big difference that are really very important, but on the most part, bows are the same. They're a stick, a string, and you pull them. You know, human beings are vaguely the same. So people have managed to figure out sort of vaguely what string goes with what length bow and sort of what bridge height that creates. So I just knew from looking up very quickly. Shatterproof Archery was a great source of information for that. The fella is just giving away the information. Really good channel. Definitely check them out. But yeah, that's where I learned that you want a string that's 3 inches shorter than your nocks, or 3.5 inches shorter than your nocks. I went for 3 inches shorter. And with this bow, I'll hold them up next to this one, and I think it's quite obvious when you see them side by side. They are quite. You have to bring it down just a little bit. That is quite hard to see here. They're quite dramatically different shapes. Well, to a bowier's eye, anyway. This one is very much a deflex reflex, but I think this one might have a. Well, it's also a deflex reflex, but this part where the handle is much straighter than this one. It's got a slight curve to it there. How do I describe the difference that makes? It means the pull on this one is much more gradual, much more even across the whole bow. But with this one, it's very saggy at the start. I could run an inch shorter string with this one. I probably should. Very saggy at the start, and then it ramps up very heavy at the end of the draw. So yeah, this would favour one type of shooter, this would favour another, or you use a certain type of shooting with this one and a certain type of shooting with this one. The snapshot. There's lots to go into. It's a very intricate sport. I hadn't realised. But where did we get to then? Right. So we've put the handle on, and we've strung the thing. So when you've strung the thing, after you've got it to a point of bending to that point, tentatively, it will brace to around your thumb sort of height. You want it a little bit higher than that. The reason you want to achieve that is so that you don't get slacked. Your string will stop around here, and it's very easy to catch. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard people talking about it, nice big bruises you get on the inside of your arm. So yeah, that's sort of where I progressed from this one to my other ones, is realizing that the brace height does need to, forms really well with this bow. But for consistency and comfort and just bringing those extra little bits of refinement to make the thing more accurate, I think I've definitely achieved it in this one. So I'm going to talk about the handle quickly on this one, because it's quite dramatically different to the others. It's more of a classic longbow shape, but then also accommodating your deep. Yeah, your deeper cut out, bit of mahogany on the rest there, and some brass. It's oh yeah, and then of course all the I can talk about the differences in staves quickly here. This one's a lovely stave. I chose it because it was, you know, very clean belly. There's not a mark or imperfection on it at all. So making my second bow, I went for a stave that, even though it's quite short, was likely to give me a good bow. See the underside there, and here. So there's very little weakness in this stave. There's very little in the way of imperfections in the grain that are going to cause it to break. And it might be a splinter or two that threaten to come up, but nothing's happening yet. The birch bark was just fun finish. Went for a birch bark tip overlays on this one to protect the back. But yeah, the handle is very different. It's flat, obviously. I'll hold up the other one in a minute and show you what I mean. But what is important here is that your thumb nook rests beneath where the arrow is. So yeah, when you move the thing, that has the least effect. Well, at that point there, I'll hold the other side, present the camera so you see the arrow will be rested in here. At that point there, the bow has the least amount of effect it could possibly have from the nook. You got the most control over the bow, I guess, from that point. And this is where I was struggling with maiden. Ugh. I'd essentially forgotten that. So here was me struggling away, trying to get a group, but I'd forgotten something very simple, which was to, you know, bring this nook down in line with the shelf, because I was fighting that at the same time as trying to figure out how center cut this needs to be to work with these particularly stiff arrows I've got right here. So yeah, so I did that. I went ahead and took some more meat away, and it sits more into the thumb. It seems as though, let me get an arrow, I'll show you. It seems as though the contact point is a little bit closer to my hand. It could be a little bit more, to be honest. But in sculpting anything, you can't just really cut straight to where, well, you could have a go, you get really good in doing your center cut. In fact, I think with some of them I did just that. I went just a little bit deeper on my center cut, or just got lucky. Or maybe I just kept it in mind when I was building those bows and put my concentration onto other things, and then, you know, I forgot how important that was in the finishing phase. But yeah, here's me trying to get groups, trying to record a group to show that the bow works, and it just won't. So it's well, the bow's not ready yet then, is it? You want these things to be as forgiving as possible. Not to say that technique isn't very important. Like I say, if you're not shooting the thing correctly, all the work that a bowmaker's gone into making this thing forgiving will go out the window. But at the same time, you've got to start with something that's going to work well. You do get a lot of options when shooting with wooden arrows. You can change the tip and the length of the thing for the stiffness, in order to make it bend around the bow, whatever material's left there, be it a center cut or a more traditional shoot off the hand style thing. Your arrow tuning is what's going to allow that to shoot properly. But my what's the word, design specifications that I've put in is that they want to be shooting stiff arrows. Your lighter modern arrow materials are much stiffer, much lighter, perform much better. So I think I've got nothing against the nothing against the traditional craft at all. I think I've demonstrated that well, but it's that's a little bit of coming out of the potential. I don't want to say potential snobbery. I want to piss off the wrong people, the wrong crowd. I think something that can definitely, well, I've definitely seen it in mountain biking, put it that way. There is snobbery. You get in your certain niche, and we just don't do things that way. But I've done all sorts of cycling, lots of outdoor sports, and what is best is the correct tool for the job. Yeah, you want to be mindful and stylish as well. People want to be stylish, but there's no reason to turn your nose up at good gear. Maybe that's the wrong way to put it. At different gear, let's put it that way. Well, I guess you're sort of using a traditional bow like this for hunting is handicapping yourself anyways. So I guess I've sort of seen it like this, like it's a nice crossover between a very traditional, beautiful looking bow. There's a video I saw of American archers who who said there's just no beating the look of a yew traditional bow. I was like, yeah, I think you're right there, mate. So I should maybe give it a crack. But of course, yeah, why turn your nose up at the modern materials? They perform really very well. Lots of reasons to use an aluminium arrow. Less likely to splinter and end up in your hand or in your arm. Very light, very stiff. You can find them with a metal detector. So yeah, this is my thought process when going through this. Is it has to be, well, make it the thing that I want it to be, but it has to hit certain standards. People have been doing this for a very long time, and they know what works and they know what doesn't. What they didn't have was aluminium. So of course, you know, there's compound bows. If I'm honest, they are the way to make a bow. It's the smart industrial option for making a bow. Yeah, if you get the wrong stave, put it this way, you need to put several hours into a piece of wood like this to find out if it's going to make you a bow. You could hit a point and you start off with your log and you start removing material. Your bow is underneath all that material, so you have no idea what the structure of the wood's doing. Could have been a woodworm that's burrowed its way through. Not likely in yew though, because it's resistant to lots of rots and woodworm, I believe. Yeah, sort of one of the things I picked up from foraging. That's what. Yeah, that the whole. Why me? Why pick my bows? I've tried to develop a deeper understanding for the countryside, a deeper appreciation, and then put the work in as well. I've done a whole bunch of scrape. My forearms are ruined. It's really hard to fire a bow because, you know, using the power sander and the card scraper and things like this, it's don't half wear your grip out and your forearms out. But yeah, I've sent something really cool here. No, it's people might struggle to make it a viable industrial option. It's something that can be done. It can make an extremely traditional modern bow, which hasn't come from Asia somewhere. It's come from a forest in England and a garage from an Englishman who saw the value in, well, a bit of history. There's a bit of history in the yew tree, not just, from empire and so on, but way back in English history to the Druids and so on. One of the oldest trees in the UK, I'm pretty sure. I think there's been debate about how old it actually is, but it's a very, very old yew tree in the UK. It's tied in with all manner of folklore and whatnot. You find it in graveyards typically. But yeah, I can understand why there'd be so many stories connected with life and death. Because well, yeah, in this whole process, I've found incredible depth to life. But without beating around the bush, these are for bringing the end of life to things, to continue the life of humans. Yeah, I'd love to shoot some more. My fingers are killing me. Yeah, I hope I don't get in trouble for mentioning the D word in this video, but yeah, it's it's sort of part of the beauty of it, the eating of meat, right? I've got a bow strung here. I could just go ahead and shoot it and maybe talk about more about the handle. Yes, do that. Looking at Thatcher, this one could also go a little bit deeper on the handle. Add a little bit more control. Such a stubby little handle on this one. I love it. Go on, let's give him a shoot. It's been a while since I fired Thatcher. Mom still got some. I haven't got a dog down there, have I? I think she's gone inside. It's good. It's a good bow. Let's do one more. Don't hurt my fingers too bad. Yep. Yeah, I could. This one is already up and listed. Could do a bit more to it, make it more forgiving. Got one more arrow here. Let's fire Shaman as well. It's a lovely bow. Another one I haven't fired too much, because I've been cracking on with making other bows. And they take. Like I say, you can lock into it and do all your cuts quick and easy, or you can sort of gradually nudge towards it, and it can take a long time to get these things tuned in. That's what I noticed in the stringing of the of Shaman here. It's very easy to string compared to the other bows, but it's the heaviest draw out of all the ones I've made, except for the first one, which I was sort of afraid to take down too much because there's a lot of imperfections in the wood. Yeah, let's see the knocking is all over the place on this one. That's another little thing can add to accuracy, as well as your technique, as well as what's going on with the bow, the fletchings and so on. Just that little bit of movement there can cause bad flight, which will cause a lack of accuracy. If you get your technique right, your split finger, you can hold it in place. If you get your release right, you don't even need a knocking point to hold the arrow in place, but it definitely can help. Let's see if Shaman's firing well. Or do I have to come revisit this bow as well, as I realise it's not as good as it could be? Oh yeah, you got a snapshot. Get the thing lined up. Oh, it did give me a little slap as well. Yeah, you got to really bring your A game with this one. All the power is right at the end of the draw. See that? Oh, you're back here. It's not an easy bow to shoot this, but when you master it, you feel like Legolas. Lovely stuff. So yeah, hopefully enlightened folks a little. Firstly, thank you so much for coming and checking me out. I hope I've enlightened you on my process a little bit. I brought Hero out as well, so let's give Hero a little look. I've done a nice handful of these now, and I think I'm settling on how they need to be. Hero's a very good example. Maiden's slightly buried. Now, Thatcher, I love you, but yeah, Maiden and Hero here. Yes, they are good examples of what I'm trying to achieve. Yep, I'll hold you up there. The Indian Laurel, that was a pleasant surprise. It's not quite as popping in this light. It's very tight grained. When you see it in person, it's a beautiful, beautiful sort of sunset stormy wood. And very lightweight, very hard and very lightweight. I don't know. Someone might like a nice heavy centre of the bow. I've heard about people putting lead in their handles. Who knows? Maybe that's something I could do if someone wants me to. Yeah, this one's moves around nice and easy. Maybe you want that, maybe you don't. Probably don't really. I've been talking about putting motion into the arrow that you don't want to be there, but if you've got good technique, you can really get along with this bow. There's little bits, little things, not that much weight between the two, but if you're walking around all day doing some hunting, a little bit of weight can add up, you know what I mean? So yeah, thanks for checking me out again. And everyone who's come to like and subscribe, comment. I ask you to like, that'd be lovely if you would, but yeah, do comment. I would love to hear ideas about some content that I could potentially make, or if I should bother doing some more long form videos about the making up of the staves and whatnot. There's so much to do. So yeah, any ideas, or any love or any hate, bring it. Love it. Thanks for watching. Yeah. There you go, spinning. That a good thumbnail?